Hey guys, welcome to our podcast, Pour Over Perspectives.
Where we'll have caffeinated conversations with your host, Alexis.
And Bree.
All right, so let's jump right into it.
Yes. What do we have for today, guys? Let's see.
You actually came over to dinner.
Yes, I did.
At my house the other day. So
yes.
Thank you for that, obviously.
Of course. I love eating, so
I love cooking and hosting. So we were talking about, at dinner, how we wanted to get our shit together. And
definitely,
before you had your own podcast, which was called Open the Lock.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that. What made you stop doing that podcast and pretty much jump into this one? Like, why did you feel it was a good idea to to get into this one rather than continuing your
Open the Lock, right?
Your other podcasts?
Yeah. So, I started the podcast roughly around 3 years ago, and I felt like at the time I loved doing what I was doing. I was kind of like a motivational speaker in some way, just wanting to help people go through the things they were going through, because I knew that I wasn't alone in the things that I was struggling with at the time. And so not until I started my program where I'm in right now in the technical college for television production, I felt like I started to love videography more and wanting to just express emotions through video. And eventually I stopped. I kind of started to become lazy with Open the Lock, and I stopped posting. I wasn't posting on social media as much. And it made me realize that I wanted to do something completely different. I was just scared. I feel like in this world, we're all so scared on doing different things that we block ourselves from such great opportunities, you know?
I think you also mentioned something about when we were talking about it. You weren't really honest with the podcast to...
For sure.
The true extent that you wanted to, just because you were holding back a little bit. How does that differ from telling the truth on this podcast? Why do you feel like there's a change?
I did feel like at the time I wanted to give advice, but I wasn't taking it myself. And I wasn't.
So guilty of that. All of us.
I know. Like, it's so easy to tell others to do something and to say it that you want to do it, but then you don't. And so I wanted something different because I wanted to be truthful to myself, but to let others know that you can want to do better and you can want others to do better, but you're not really doing it. And so when we started talking about the podcast, we wanted to, yes, incorporate somehow motivation and helping others, but with sharing experiences, sharing stories, sharing real life stuff that we go through as humans, and even as sisters, even with our age gap. Like, we're 7 years apart. Okay, I just turned 19, and
I'm
Alexis,
about to turn 27. Yeah.
27.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because even with our age gap, we go through very similar things, but in different aspects. And so we wanted to kind of share that with you guys and be honest with ourselves, because this is even healing us as people. We're real people behind the screen, and we wanted you guys to be a part of it. So kind of giving my backstory as to why we decided to do Pour Over Perspectives. Now I kind of want to ask you, what was your major reason as to why you wanted to start this? Because of course this is something new to you as well. I know you've been mentioning you wanted to do social media, and so go into more detail about that.
Okay. So it goes back to about a year ago. In February of 2024, I had found out that I was pregnant. And even before that, I was already going to jump into social media. But it's the funniest thing because life works in mysterious ways. And just when you think that you're ready to take something on, God is like, hold on, I'm going to throw you a curveball. So, I was going to get into social media, and then long story short, I found out that I was pregnant. And from there, I kind of went into some sort of a depression.
Mhm.
And I kind of put myself on the back burner in terms of wanting to put myself out there and actually do social media full force.
Mhm.
So that lasted all the way up until, my birth. I was going through a depression through my pregnancy all the way up until now that, I have my son. And that's a whole another story in itself, crazy story. But
Yes.
with that, I pretty much decided, you know what? Outside of just being a mom, I want to go ahead and find
The other
my
side.
identity
Mhm.
and actually do things for myself and not just live for my son.
Mhm.
It's time to put myself out there. And, we mentioned I'm about to turn 27 this year.
Exactly.
And if I keep putting on hold,
Procrastinating and just
my
prolonging.
goals, it's like
Mhm.
they'll never get done.
Exactly.
So that's what really made me want to just go full force.
Mhm.
And I know it's so cliche, like new year, new me, but it's like,
Honestly, it is, because I used to say the same thing, but I feel like once you've been accustomed to something for so long, you don't want to get out of it. And so to now want something different, how I'm trying to figure out how to even ask this question. What is that thing that's pushing you to now put yourself out there? Because I know, with me, I put my whole life on social media. And I know you used to be on social media, but to a certain extent and not sharing as much information.
yeah.
And so just one other question, just giving a backstory, why now you want to share yourself and share the things you go through? Like, what is your reasoning for that?
Honestly, when you become a mother, and it's so hard to relate because obviously you don't have a kid yet.
Of course.
When you're young and you're going through life, most oftentimes you're always going to think about what are other people going to say.
Right.
And of course, that's still in the back of my head.
Definitely.
Like, okay, maybe I'll be judged or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you become a mom, you have like this whole new perspective of life.
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer worried about
just you
and what other people are going to think. You're actually living for your family.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, my son, and just even how he came about, that whole story, it just inspires me so much, especially with everything that I've been through. I think that we shouldn't take any second for granted, because you never know what could happen. So I feel like that's definitely pushing me to go hard this year and be like, you know what? F it. Like, let me just do what I have to do and get it by any means,
And I love that. Yeah. I really do love that, especially how you just explained everything and how people can truly understand the differences of everyone. But even at the end of the day, we're all going through something all similar. So,
and one day you'll understand too when you have a kid,
I'm a mommy.
Not anytime soon though.
No, I know. Baby fever is a real thing, guys. Okay. You know how hard it is to look at my nephew and just.
He's so cute. Like, of course, I'm going to be biased because he's my son, but,
but
so cute.
And I'm his titi, so I'm going to be biased too. But oh my God. So yeah.
Shout out to Titi Evelyn for taking care of the baby.
Yeah. We're going to tag you, Mom.
Okay, so I wanted to jump into, was there an actual event or, something that caused you to lose your identity or lose your spark, where you felt like, was it like a rock bottom or like what was the cause of you losing that?
Well, I want to answer one of the parts first. I feel like when a time where I felt like I was in a very deep hole, which I'm going to get into that a little bit and explain what. I do feel like because I'm still such at a young age, I'm only 19 years old, I haven't gone through the worst of the worst. And I can't say right now that my life was ever the worst and it was just horrible, because I'm, very grateful for everything I have. But besides the point, I have a lot of years left on this earth, and I don't know what can happen in the future. Do I know that what I went through was hard? Yes. But that's to answer that question. But to explain everything.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, get into
the tea.
How or what exactly you went through that, kind of caused your
just so started. Yeah. Well, I can't even remember what age. I think I was like 14 or something like that.
I think you were 14.
Yeah. It was like around turning 14.
Davy, I think, yeah.
18? Yeah, I mean, 18. No, I wasn't, 8th grade, around middle school.
Yes.
Yeah, so previously,
your life took a huge turn.
A huge turn. I would never expected it. If you ever come from, I guess you can say, a broken home, not having your parents together, your dream is to always want your parents together. Mm-hmm. I always wanted that. Like from such a young age, seeing my friends, my best friend now to this day, her parents are still together. So growing up and seeing like, wow, like her parents are still together since she was born, even before that. So always telling my mom that, Mom, like, I wish, you and Dad would get together again and whatnot. And so my dream came true, surprisingly, out of freaking nowhere. And my mom was with somebody at the time. And so eventually the place that we were staying at, we left, and my biological father, started coming around more. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, always wanting it for so long, you would think I would be happy. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, it wasn't like that. I didn't like him around.
But was that from the very beginning, or was that something that had transitioned into, later on?
As it happened? I don't know. I felt like I kind of held a grudge for a little bit, just because he was not present. And for not being present, I don't think it's fair or right to just come into my life and just be like, oh, you're my daughter, I'm going to start taking you out, you're going to start having weekends at my house. Like we're not going to have that daddy-daughter relationship how daughters and dads do now, So that is why I felt like I wasn't going to jump into it, and why I was a little bit upset, because it wasn't on that timing. And so after, a couple weeks later, it stopped. It started to get worse for me. I felt like I wasn't happy in the home I was in. I was frustrated. I was angry. I couldn't really express how I felt. I was holding in emotions I wasn't even telling my mom about. And it was all confusion, even to now think about it, and like having to relive that is so weird to me right now. So
our brain is so funny, because we tend to like put things in a Pandora box, and then we actually start to think about it, but we have to dig deep into our brain and be like, you know what? Oh my God, I even forgot that I had this memory.
Yeah. So, sorry guys, I keep saying, you're going to hear that a lot, but I was lost. I was young. I didn't know a lot of stuff. And when that started to happen, just like any other kid, I feel like we go on to wanting to suppress that. And so I don't want to say this on YouTube, but I went on to other things. And
gardening.
Yes. Oh my God. I've been seeing that word on TikTok now.
Yeah,
people are like, gardening. So I tried gardening. I liked gardening. I felt like I was in a different realm where I was forgetting how I felt. I didn't want to feel it. So it was the best way for me to not feel it anymore.
You were suppressing your emotions or you were coping.
Yeah. I mean, it was still suppressing, because I was trying to put it deep down inside so I wouldn't have to deal with it, feel it. And I was just locking myself in my room and sleeping a lot. So with sleeping a lot, of course, my parents caught on and they were like, oh, why are you sleeping all the time? What is wrong with you? Eventually, of course, like any other teenager, I got caught. And so that's when I had to really express and let them know what's up and actually talk one-on-one and be like, I need help. Like I need help. And that was the first time, even like growing up, I never was, obviously I'm very close with my mom. I still am now, but I wasn't good with expressing myself with my mom because growing up, my mom wasn't very well expressing herself either.
Girl,
and so
my mom too, like it runs in the family. Hello,
girl. Tell me about that. So a few years later, after that whole situation, I tried to open myself to wanting a relationship with my dad because I always wanted it. And I didn't want to be that person where I'm just judging when I know that I've done wrong. And just having conversations with my mom, like, he's your dad, just give it a try, give him a chance. And so I did over time. I felt like things started to get better, but they weren't the mom and dad that I wanted them to be, which I know it probably sounds really rough, but they weren't what I expected. And with that, I started to resent them over the years, just with a lot of toxicity in the house. It wasn't a loving relationship that I could, that was teaching me any good.
Right.
So with that, toxic, a lot of not good words, to just be saying in general and just saying to one another, to the point where I blew up. And with blowing up, I turned not with gardening anymore, but a few years later, it turned to boys. I'm a girl. We go through hormones and we're growing up. And so I'm actually, a few years later, I moved into a different community and I found this boy down the street. Thinking about it just makes me cringe because, oh my God, 15-year-old me, I was crazy, guys. But I found a boy down the street and obviously, you know the details, but it got serious in some way, but
he was basically like your escape.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there.
I'll leave it there. It was an escape, not having a dad around. I was going on to other things. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right whatsoever. Am I proud of it? No. Do I regret it? No, because I know that it was a part of my life. And for me to learn from that, I had to go through it. And so I turned to that and feeling like I had to be cared for and loved for from another person, not receiving it. And also just being very insecure, not being confident, low self-esteem. I feel like a lot of girls, we go through, low self-esteem and confidence and such like that.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I know. From going through all that, I didn't want that to be me. And getting older, as soon as I turned 18 years old, which is, ever since I was young, I always wanted to get old. Like, oh my God, when I get older, I'm going to move out the house. I'm going to have this perfect life.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my shit together. I'm going to have all this money, whatever. That didn't happen, of course. A year later, I'm back in the same situation that I was when I was 17 years old, And I knew that that's not what I wanted. I knew that I didn't want to think of myself as the girl who has issues or daddy issues or whatnot, and just worrying about stuff that I don't need to be worrying about, especially with the situation with my parents. Like, at the end of the day, they're going to be who they are, good or bad, and I can't dictate that.
Right.
So I couldn't change that. And with the whole boy situation, like, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to give myself to people who I wasn't worth, who weren't worth being with me. And that's why I wanted all of this change. And that's why I even started Open the Lock, to just show that even though you go through things, you can still find a way to get out of it.
Right.
And with now doing this, I am trying to also reinvent myself, as like you were saying, but doing something better for myself and something that could hopefully last in the future and make something out of it, make a living out of it. Shit, you never know. First podcast, 1,000 subscribers.
Right. You never
I'm just saying.
I mean,
but
there are various opportunities out there.
now, with you asking me those questions, of course, now I want to put you on the spotlight and ask you the question now. What point of your life did you feel like you were so much deeper than what you thought? You know, like what made you realize that this wasn't going to do it anymore? Like, one, what were you going through? What was going on in your mind? What were you feeling? How was life like? You know, tell me more about that.
So I originally moved to Florida when I graduated high school, which I was 18. So I was originally born and raised in New York, but I moved over here because I definitely was ready for a change. And I've just always been the type of person that, I don't know, I just knew that I was meant to live a life, like a different life.
A different
like,
lifestyle from what you grew up in.
Exactly. And I've always wanted a change, you know, not saying that I don't regret being born and raised in New York. Like I love home, but I wanted something different for myself. And keeping that in the back of my mind of like, okay, I've always wanted to live a certain life and be more than just average. I was always so hard on myself.
Right.
So it starts off in college. I go to college and I find myself being like, okay, what the heck? What am I doing in college? I'm not even happy.
Like
so I went in studying fashion marketing. I realized real quick, I'm like, I don't think this is what I want to do. Jumped into education. Doing that, I was like, okay, maybe this is not what I want to do. And then once again, I changed not only schools, but also major. I went into psychology. And I just found myself doing that over the course of time, just dibbling and dabbling in different things where I felt like I'm going around trying different things. And, you know, I just never felt happy.
Right.
Like I didn't know my purpose. And still till this day, like I don't know. But outside of being a mom, I still don't know exactly what my purpose is.
You have to find that.
But this is where like I'm trying to find that, you know, and just being more real with myself and stop chasing different careers and being like, you know, well, let's see if this makes me happy.
Right.
And actually listening to myself. So going into that, I eventually found myself several years later working at an office selling insurance, you know, and it was a pretty good job. You know, I had just gone through a crazy breakup and I had gone through a crazy breakup and I found myself, you know, working at this office and trying to once again reinvent the wheel, try to find myself and see if this is something that I'm passionate about. And, you know, the money was good at the time and I was self-employed. So I was working and I thought to myself, okay, I can leave when I want. I can go in when I want.
Right.
And long story short, I just started working these crazy hours. You
that was just unimaginable. Like
you witnessed it.
Yeah, I know. It was brutal.
I was working 12 to 14 hours in a day. You know, I'm grateful for that job because it taught me skills, you know, how to be coachable, learning how sales works. So I'm very grateful for that job, but I just knew that I wasn't happy there.
You couldn't see yourself long term there.
Yeah. And, you know, the reason why I bring this job up is because I was there trying to chase a dollar. And I found myself losing myself over and over again because of the fact that I was trying to, you know, chase a career, chase a dollar.
And I feel like not only were you dealing with, of course, trying to chase a dollar, but you were also dealing with you yourself. So having to now deal with a commission job, which if you guys don't know what commission-based job is, you get paid from the sales you make. You don't get an hourly rate.
If you don't make sales,
you're not getting nothing.
Right.
So every phone call matters. Every hour, every minute of the day matters. So when you are so focused on that, you're now losing the sight of yourself. You're now, all you're doing is living to work. There was no schedule outside of you working. And I felt like with you working, you weren't having time for yourself.
Yeah,
and
I really wasn't.
You before, you were set. You had your journal, you were journaling, you know, we were even doing meditations, going to the gym, exercising, going to the beach to just relax and just see the life that God made, you know? And I felt like when you got into work so much, which I'm not saying work is a bad thing, but when you are now losing the side of yourself for work is when that draws the line.
Yeah, I honestly, I was no longer being able to live in the moment. I was more so like, okay, I'll be here. Like even for your birthday, I would, because I worked like 5 minutes away
was right
from
there.
where you from where you live, and I would come for your birthday or like any
family
event,
gatherings,
and I would stay here for like maybe tops an hour, and I'd be like, okay, well I have to go back to the office, and so I just felt myself.
I don't know how people do that.
I just felt myself, you know, getting lost because I was constantly working. Once again, I'm very grateful for the job because it taught me so many things. And even then, it kind of taught me discipline because I ended up finding someone that helped me get back into the gym, kind of reinvent myself after I had gone through a breakup. I was like the heaviest that I was ever.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I remember.
After birth, but still, like I was heavy back then. And honestly, I just felt so just uncomfortable, kind of disgusted with myself because I let myself get to that point. So I ended up finding I ended up finding someone that was helping me with going to the gym. She introduced me to the gym. She was a coworker, and you know, we just went at it. And at first, it was hard. I was like, what the heck am I doing? I didn't know how to freaking do a squat.
Guys, I hate the gym.
Like,
just letting you know.
Nothing. I was just so clueless at the gym. And along with that, I had to learn how to eat and stuff.
Maintain it.
Once I started finding a passion for the gym, it helped with my mental challenges. I found myself being able to, you know, accomplish many goals. So like if I was going to do a set of 10 and I would push myself to be like, you know what, you can do 15. I would push myself slowly but surely. And I started incorporating that into my life.
Your daily, and into everything, like one more. But I mean, I was seeing that. I feel like gym for you was your therapy. Because people have therapy in many ways. You can either go to a therapist, driving, garden, not my personal preference, but gardening, going for a walk, going to the beach, you know, like, so I felt like you found a safe space in going to the gym. With others, it's not that way. So
yeah. And then obviously the reason why I bring all of that up is because I was going to the gym, and obviously when you get into a relationship, I ended up finding my baby daddy in the insurance office. and you know, you get into a relationship, you start thinking like, you know what, I'll skip a gym day. Then you start skipping 2 gym days and then whatever. So we were living our best lives. We were like just getting started in our relationship. And with that, you know, I kind of lost sight of myself. I started living for my relationship.
Oh, that's a whole other topic. We need to get into that.
Yeah.
We still need to get into that. Okay.
So just living for my relationship. But yeah, that's another thing.
That's a whole other topic because I feel like that's so serious.
Relevant.
Like so much detail, but I understand what you're saying completely.
And from there, you know, we were only together for about 5 months before I found out that I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And so with
Guys, they was getting freaky. Real freaky.
So with that,
I mean, shit, I have the cutest nephew, but you know.
So from that, you know, we ended up finding out that we got pregnant in February of 2024. And I was like, damn, this happened so quickly. We started dating July of 2023, found out we were pregnant in February 2024, and we were like, what the heck?
Do the math.
What the heck? So from there already, even when I was in the relationship with him, like I was happy because it was something so new. And I guess that was my way of coping with, you know, like
Yourself.
myself.
Yeah.
And being that I was in a relationship and it was so new, I was so blinded by like, you know, oh my God, I'm so happy, I'm in love and everything, that I stopped paying attention to myself and doing things that mattered for me, especially like journaling, going to the beach, going to the gym.
Exercising.
Guys, I
Eating well.
literally gave that up. And it's not because of him. I'm not blaming him.
No,
it's just that I lost sight of myself. And, you know, later down the line, as I got pregnant, you know, we started going through kind of some issues because of the fact that, one, I was hormonal. Excuse me. We started going through some issues. One, because I was hormonal, but also because I stopped doing the work on myself.
Exactly.
And I found myself just constantly arguing, being unhappy. So I didn't really enjoy my pregnancy the way that I wanted to, especially because there was a lot of things happening behind the scenes, like, you know, some financial stuff and personal stuff in terms of being so hard on myself. Like, what am I gonna do now? Like, you know, when people tell you like you're pregnant, now your life is over, you're about to be a mom, your life is over. I started thinking that way.
But you see how it went on to it? It's like you were still dealing with stuff personally, and of course you guys together before, but because now, not obviously, you know, being pregnant is a beautiful thing, but now going on to being pregnant, it's like now you had more of a stress to think about, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Everything was amplified, like everything. And that made me think about myself, like, okay, what am I gonna do? Not only with work, but like, what kind of mom do I want to be? You know, I'm not saying that I have a bad mom. Like, I'm very grateful for my mother. She did the best that she could, you know, like we come from a Hispanic household, just like how you were mentioning that your mom wasn't very, you know, communicative at a certain point in time and expressive.
Yeah.
My mom is the same way, you know, and well, was the same way because she's changed. But I started to ask myself these things, like, what kind of mom do I want to be? And instead of like finding ways to actually, you know, find a solution, my head would just go in circles and I would stress myself out.
Yeah.
And from there, I feel like, you know what? I don't even feel like feeling anymore. Like,
You just want to turn it off.
I just want to turn it off. And I was kind of numb. So throughout the whole time of my pregnancy, I would literally sleep, eat, go to my appointments, spend time with family here and there, but I was pretty much isolated, you know, and I feel like with time that just got even worse. And
wow, you saying that just hit me deep.
Yeah.
Like just wanting to like turn, like as if it were a switch.
Yeah.
And you just want to turn it off. Like that's
literally my coping mechanism. Like I tend to isolate myself and go through my own depression, but I found that that's not helpful. And actually being expressive and surrounding yourself by your support system is what helps you the most. So obviously, you know, I would communicate with my fiance. Obviously, my baby daddy is my fiance.
Hello.
Period. But we, we would talk about these things, and he would help me to a certain extent, but I realized this is my own battle. Like, exactly. I have to.
A person can only do so much to help you, and as well as you can only do so much to help somebody, but you are the only person that's truly going to
get yourself out of it.
Exactly.
And, the pregnancy wasn't the cause of my depression. It was something that kind of
over time
kind of made the situation even worse because of my hormones. Like,
and just now thinking of like, now not only do I have to support myself, I have to support a child. And with dealing with personal stuff, like going through stuff, and I was like, okay, I have a kid. Now I can't even think about what's going on in my mind. Now I have to worry about my child.
Right. Just to kind of sum it up, to what I was saying. And, this is going to be the first time that I'm saying it out loud outside of just sharing it with my fiance. It was so bad that the day that my son was born, I was actually kind of numb. Like, I cried a little bit, but I didn't cry with emotion of like, you felt it in your heart. And obviously I was like off drugs, like,
Hello.
It was not easy, guys. My birth story is a whole different story, but it was not easy. And you would think that with the way that my son was born, first off, my son didn't come out breathing, which was scary.
Very.
And me having complications, I actually had to go into surgery. You would think that I would feel all my emotions right then and there, and still, like, I held my son for a second, and I was emotional a little bit, but deep down I was still numb. And that's the first time I'm saying that. That's how deep of a dark hole I was in. And I feel like now, 3 months later, about to be 4 months, because my son is about to be 4 months.
He's getting so big.
I know, right? Now is when I'm starting to crawl out of that dark
slowly
hole.
but surely,
and thank God for him, because literally he is giving me purpose. And that's why I'm so adamant about
making a change,
not only for him, but for myself, for my relationship, for like my family, to be a better daughter, to be a better, fiance, a mother, a sister, just
everything,
a niece, granddaughter. Like, I just want to push myself to be more and to be better. So it's better to start now than later, especially when you are realizing it and you don't want to procrastinate anymore. We can live our whole life procrastinating and wanting to make a change, but we're not doing it. And so this is even a message to you. If you're watching this and you are somehow relating with our stories or something very similar, like, start now than later, because seeing that this has motivated us so much to now make a podcast out of it, like, you don't know what the stuff you've gone through, what that can make you do or what that can make you become. And just to kind of mention, it's never too late to start. Like, once again, I'm going to be 27, and you would think that I'm like, oh my gosh, my life is over. I'm nearly 30. It's never too late to start. In fact, I feel like as you get older, you're more in your prime, because you're more seasoned. You're more wise.
You know more.
Right.
You've lived through more time, and you're more knowledgeable, and
it's like
that.
If I've gone through this, because I feel like I've been in many dark holes before, and I feel like you can kind of say the same thing too, right?
I feel like I'm like
it's not gonna be the first nor the last dark hole.
I feel like I'm a camel. Like, the camels, how they have like their back like that,
up and down.
I feel like that's how it is, because I'll be such in a prime state where I'm exercising.
You're thriving.
I was thriving, and I feel like now I'm not in that hole, but I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm not where I was when I was thriving. So hopefully now I can be at the top of the hump, and then maybe, you never know, a couple months later I'm probably at the bottom. But I'll eventually.
That's life.
Yeah,
you just
eventually
go
you're
up
gonna
and
get
down.
to the top.
Yeah. So I kind of just want to turn it back to you,
Okay.
and kind of ask you, what is the next chapter, or this chapter of finding yourself after losing your spark, losing your identity?
Mm-hmm.
What does the next chapter look like for you in this season?
Good question.
Like, what's next?
What's next?
We all want to know. We all want to know the tea.
I know. I love tea. I mean, we love coffee, as you can see, but
Obviously.
tea's good too. So the next chapter that I see for myself, I mean, obviously, like, I can't tell the future, but I want to change my life around to be better. Like you were saying, you want to be a better mother, you want to be a better fiance, you want to be a better daughter, niece, granddaughter. I want to be better for the people around me, but I also want to be better for myself. And not only that, I want to be proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sit there knowing that I need to make a change and I'm not making a change. I want to be proud of myself. I want to make changes and now know, like, I did this myself.
Right.
And not hold back, not procrastinate, not worry, not stressed, not being fearful. So just characteristics more of where I actually see my life more than who I'm going to be. So now, of course, with ending off the episode, now I want to ask you, with now going on to this new chapter of launching our podcast and so many other great things in life, what's the future looking like for you? What do you, in this season now of your life, you're going to be 27 this year. What is that going to look like? What are we going to see from you? Especially not only us, the family in your life, but what are the viewers going to see from you?
Okay. That's a lot. But
I know.
definitely a new version of me and my life. Obviously, I'm not going to have it figured out by the ending of 2025.
Of course.
But a lot of people are going to start seeing the more creative side of me and the side of not being fearful.
Yes.
And actually putting myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first step is obviously creating content, not only with the podcast, but also going back into fitness.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I obviously mentioned became my passion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely gonna jump right back into that.
I think that's the best way.
And there might be something with fitness in terms of profiting off of that. Yeah, so we'll see. But for sure, just being more creative, putting myself out there,
Mm-hmm.
and not being fearful, doing fitness.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to film myself at the gym, I'm going to do it. I don't care if you're watching. I don't care if you're judging.
Yeah.
Like, you can either hate it or love it. It's still going to get done.
Yep.
More of just finding myself outside of being a mom. I love my son. I love being a fiance, but I need to find myself once again. It's time. Find the things that I love doing and that makes me me. And also healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's also another topic that we're definitely going to talk about.
Oh yeah.
But healing, generational traumas. That is a huge thing. Healing that part of myself, healing my inner child, being better all over,
Definitely.
And
I feel like it's not so much of moving forward, it's what are you going to do to move forward? Because you can move forward. You can forget about shit you've gone through, but it's very hard to actually do things to let go of those things, not just forget about it. So, episode 2 brewing. I don't know,
Excited.
guys, but we'll see.
I think that also with this, just us actually getting together, having to brainstorm with, content with the podcast, I feel like we're holding each other accountable for wanting to do more in life, and outside of that, I feel like, because I'm going to constantly be over here, already am because of Enzo, but besides podcasting, obviously I'm going to tell you, hey, let's go to the gym, or hey, let's do this. Like it's holding you accountable.
We have
just like
to.
You are holding me accountable as well. So I feel like this is going to be so exciting. This is just one of the many things that's to come in the next chapter of reinventing ourselves.
For sure.
But yeah, this is exciting. I'm excited for both of us.
Yes, me too, guys.
Thank you guys for watching our very first episode on Pour Over Perspectives.
Don't forget to tune in next week with your cup of coffee to watch episode 2. Bye.
Bye.